Well, everyone, it's that time of year again, and that is that 2015 is coming to an end. Now, this is a special video. This is going to be a top 10 video games. I'm going to list off the top 10 video games that I enjoyed, the top 10 video games that my game of the year video games. All these games that are on this list are great. I'm also going to have a list of video games that are going to be honorable mentions, games that I did play but didn't make it on the list for reasons that I will get to shortly. And then I'm also going to have a list of video games that I didn't get to play, but I would have liked to have played, or got that, and that'll be the reason why they didn't make the list. Now, here's my criteria. Number one, it has to be a video game I played to completion, like I beat the story mode of it. And I did that for all these games that I have. Number two, it has to be a game that came out in 2015. It can't be, and it has to be a game that has not been on any of the, has not been on the console that I have, or hasn't came out previously. For example, Shovel Knight. That's going to be one game that I'm not going to put on this list, because Shovel Knight did come out for PlayStation 3, 4, and Vita this year. But it's not going to be on the list because it was already out for Wii U and 360, I believe in 2013 or 2014, I can't remember. So that's going to be a reason why that. Like, there are some games that came out previously, but they just weren't on the console that I had. Another thing, remakes are not going to be on the list either. For example, Majora's Mask, Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask 3D will not be on this list, unfortunately. That will be in my honorable mentions list. It will be like games, like I said, games that it can't be remade. Like, it was on a previous console generation, and now it's back here. Another example, Resident Evil remaster or remake. It's not going to be on the list either because it was out on PlayStation 1, even though it got into an HDified thing. However, there will be one exception, but I'll get to that one when we get there. And as far as I know, those are the only criteria. I have to play the game to completion, start to finish, story mode wise. Can't be a game that came out on a console a previous year and then like on another console this year type thing. And it can't be a remake. It can't be a game that came out years ago and then came out again, like The Last of Us. It came out originally on PS3 and then came out on PS4 last year, I believe. So it can't be any of those. Alright, without further ado, let's begin the countdown. Side note, I forgot to mention this while I was recording, but I just realized it now. I might spoil some of the games in my top 10, so just fair warning for that, there could be spoilers. Number 10, Until Dawn. Now, Until Dawn is a very interesting game in my opinion. It's actually one of the games that I didn't really know about until like a few weeks into its release. It's also one of the games I didn't really even plan on getting, and on a whim, I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll just pick it up right away, and I fell in love with it. The first night playing it, I got through halfway through the game, and I was like, okay, I have to stop. I have to go to sleep. I have to get to work tomorrow morning early, but it just kept me going. It's a horror game that I believe has been in development since 2013. I can't remember, but I remember it got mentioned a few years ago, and then it finally came out this year. Now, Until Dawn follows the horror tropes of, okay, a couple of high school kids are having a party, and then one day, in a ski lodge owned by one of their parents, and then two of them, Heather and Beth, they got killed. And then a year later, their brother Josh decides to have another party in the cabin, which automatically should already be a warning sign of, hold on a second, why are we doing this a year after their disappearance? Of course, they know that they only disappeared. They don't know that they have died yet because they never found the bodies. Now, you take control of 8 characters here. You take control of Josh, Emily, Matt, Mike, Ashley, Chris, Sam. I might be missing one, but I can't remember, unfortunately. I'm trying to remember, but unfortunately, during my recording of this, I can't. I'll try to think of it later on. But you take control of those characters, and then, hold on, maybe. So you have Emily, Matt. Oh, Jess was the other girl's name. I'm so bad at this. I should have remembered there. There's 4 girls and 4 guys. Now you can take control of them, and depending on your actions, it all depends on who lives and who dies. And that's actually a nice spin into this game that I think is very interesting, and one that I think could be used again, where you take control of characters in a horror movie type game, and depending on your actions, they either live or they die. Now you can, and that results in lots of different endings. You could have the ending where they all live. You can have an ending where they all die, and anywhere in between. You can have an ending where only one person survives. You can have an ending where 3 people survive. Like my first playthrough, I had an ending where only 3 people survived. Actually, technically 4. I had Mike, Emily, and Sam survive. But if you do some things right, you can have Josh survive. And I had Josh survive. Of course, he becomes a Wendigo, which is what the main thing is the villains is Wendigos. So it's a fun game, and I say definitely recommend picking it up if you are a fan of these types of video games. And I haven't really played that many horror games, but Until Dawn is definitely a contender, but unfortunately it only made number 10 on the list. But it's still a great game that came out in 2015. Number 9, Batman Arkham Knight. Now, the Arkham series has been around for a long time, and Batman Arkham Knight is a fun game in my opinion. I know a lot of people had trouble with it, and a lot of people may not have liked it as much as the other Arkham games. And I'm actually one of those people. I mean, I did love Arkham Knight, but I mean, Arkham Asylum is still probably the best one out of all of these games. But also, Arkham Knight also wrapped up the Arkham series as a whole in general, not very nicely, in my opinion. Probably one of the newest features of this than all the other Arkham games is you actually get to drive the Batmobile. Now, the Batmobile, I actually love doing it. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people thought it was pointless. A lot of people feel like it forced you into it in a lot of stuff, which I can see that. But I mean, I still loved driving the Batmobile as much as playing as Batman. And, doing all this and that. And it was just a fun game, fun experience in my opinion. And sure, a lot of people might think that the story was a bit predictable, and if you know about Batman, I have to agree with you there. I mean, the Arkham Knight's identity is actually fairly easy to know who it is if you know anything about Batman. The first time he shows up, you'll be like, oh, I know who that is. And of course, it turned out to be who you think it is. I have not, like I said, I love this game, but unfortunately, I still liked Asylum more. I probably like this one more than City. Not to say anything was bad about Batman Arkham City. It's just that Arkham Knight was a little bit better. And of course, it had the Riddler stuff. I know a lot of people hated the Riddler stuff, myself included. I probably hated it the most out of all the other Arkham games with the Riddler stuff. This is probably the least favorite of the Riddler stuff, because you had to go all over the place. You had to go all over Gotham. You have to go everywhere. You have to find all the trophies. You have to find all the clues. You have to find all the tracks, because now there was tracks. And of course, the DLC for Batman Arkham Knight has been amazing too. You actually get to play as Catwoman for the first time ever in any of the Arkham games, which was fun and amazing. You got to play as Red Hood. You got to play as Robin, Nightwing, so many other characters. The DLC probably is the strongest thing out of this entire game. Not to say, like I said, the ending was also pretty neat too. And if you got that 100% ending, it is really worth
seeing and really worth playing. That's why this gets number 9 on the list, is because unfortunately the ending, the canon ending, the 100% ending, you really have to do a lot of work for it. You have to complete everything, do all the Riddler stuff, do all the side stuff. And of course, it's really worth it, in my opinion, to do it, to see that ending, because it's quite an amazing ending. And if you're a fan of Batman, if you're a fan of any of the Arkham games, I really recommend picking up Arkham Knight because it's a fun game. You're gonna enjoy it. You might not like the Batmobile as much as you like playing Batman, or riding around as Batman, uh, playing as Batman. But it's still fun to play, and so pick it up. If you can get it cheap, or I say pick up the whole game. Unfortunately, there was a lot of controversy with the PC version of the game, and unfortunately, that's how it goes, I guess. But they tried to fix it. But again, if you have a PS3, or not PS3, a PS4 or an Xbox One, pick it up. It's quite a fun game and fun experience to play. Number 8, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creeds. I have not played all of them. I haven't started playing. I never played the first one. I never played the second one. I never played Brotherhood or Revelations. I started on Assassin's Creed 3, and from then on, I played a lot of Assassin's Creed games. I haven't played Unity because I never had the console to play it then, and I probably will play it. But Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I have to say, I loved it. I loved it so much. Assassin's Creed Rogue actually made my top 10 list last year, and it made it to the top 5. But unfortunately, Syndicate probably falls a little bit shorter than Rogue, because in Rogue, you're an assassin turned Templar, and I love that concept. But in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, you play as the Fry twins, Jacob Fry and Evie Fry. Now, a lot of people argue that this is actually the first time you play as a female assassin. That's not really the case. You actually got to play as a female assassin, Aveline, in Assassin's Creed 3 Liberations. Unfortunately, that was only exclusive to the Vita for a while, and then it got ported to the Xbox 360 and PS3. But it's still a fun game. And Assassin's Creed Syndicate takes place during the revolutionary age of London. I'm probably saying that wrong. It's the industrial age of London. There we go, industrial London. You meet a lot of people. You meet Alexander Graham Bell. You meet Charles Darwin, Charles Dickens, Charles Marx, and it's just amazing that you meet all these characters. I have to say the story of Assassin's Creed Syndicate is an amazing one. You're trying to free London from the Templars. You're just trying to find that piece of Eden, as always, in every single Assassin's Creed game. And of course, every now and then you see what's happening in the real world. I have to say that actually kind of ruins it a little bit for me. This one, the most. In Rogue, it didn't bother me that much that you had to go into the real world and walk around there. But in Syndicate, you don't even do anything. You just watch what happens, and I don't like it that much. Like I said, in Rogue, you actually got to walk around in the Abstergo Industries, but in Syndicate, it's just nope. You just watch what goes on. The only time you walk around is in the game, which I'm okay with that. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is a fun game. You get to own your headquarters is a train, for crying out loud. That is so much fun. And of course, I actually love playing as both Evie and Jacob Fry. Probably Evie a little bit more because she's all about stealth, and Jacob is more, the bronze, the muscle. He's the guy that takes everything head on. Evie is the calculated one. She calculates the outcome. She sneaks her way. She thinks of a way to do something, and then she does it as quietly as possible. And I like that. I mean, I like both stealth and bronze, and that's why I think those two do pretty well. Now, the story in general, I think the story is fine, although I do think it is a little weaker than Rogue. But I mean, I don't think you can really top having an assassin turned Templar. Maybe having a Templar turned assassin. I think they already did that once already. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But yes, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, an amazing game, an amazing Assassin's Creed game. So much better than Unity. I recommend picking up Assassin's Creed Syndicate if you're a fan of Assassin's Creed series. If you're a fan of Assassin's Creed, if you're a fan of all the free roaming that you get to do in these kinds of games, there are some things I don't really like, but I mean, this is one of those games that a lot of the stuff that I did like really outweighed all the stuff that I didn't like. And I mean, the stuff that I didn't really like, I mean, probably, it wasn't that hard to 100% synchronize stuff, which isn't a bad thing. It's more so like, oh, okay, you have to do one thing or two things, and then bada bing, bada boom, you're 100% synced. Not a bad thing, but it wasn't that much of a challenge as it was in previous Assassin's Creed games. So it's not like you really have to work to do these things. It's like, oh, okay, I just have to do that. That's not hard. It's easy enough. But like I said, fun game to pick up, fun game to play, fun Assassin's Creed game to play in general. So I really recommend picking this game up if you're a big fan of the Assassin's Creed series. Number 7, Danganronpa, another episode, Ultra Despair Girls. Now, this game takes place between Danganronpa 1 and Danganronpa 2, and you take control of Maru Naegi, the little sister of the protagonist of the first Danganronpa game, Makoto. And eventually you will meet Toko Fukawa, who was also in the first Danganronpa game, who has a split personality of Jack, who has a serial killer inside of her. So, of course, hilarity ensues, and you're basically trying to find a way out of the city, but you're being targeted by 5 kids called the Warriors of Hope, who have a little bit of connection to Junko Inoshima, the main antagonist of the entire Danganronpa series, but mostly in Danganronpa 1. And of course in Danganronpa 2 she does appear as well. So your weapon is, of course, this weird gun that looks like a megaphone. It has a lot of settings. You have break, you have shock, you have control, you have move, you have a dance. You have so many of the things. It's a fun game. This game gets a lot of flack because I do agree the story is a bit weak compared to the other 2 Danganronpa games, but this game is different. It is like a first-person shooter adventure action game compared to the other 2 games, which are like novelties. I can't remember the exact word for it, but they're novel games. They're visual novel games where you just basically move around and click on such, and eventually you will win the game. Of course, this didn't have what I loved in the first 2 Danganronpa games is the whole court-based thing, the whole trials type thing, the mystery, that. But I mean, there is some mystery in this game. There's a lot of fun in this game too. I do say this is a fun game, and unfortunately, it does get a lot of flack, like I said, because it doesn't meet a lot of people's expectations of how Danganronpa should be. Because, like I said, Danganronpa 1 and 2 are great games, and unfortunately, Ultra Despair Girls just falls short on it. I mean, I love the game. It's a fun game. It probably did not need to take as long as it did to tell the whole story, but, I'm glad it did. It's a fun game. It's split up into 5 chapters. You face the Warriors of Hope. Those little kids, they're probably the worst antagonists ever, save for like 2, maybe 3 of them. But, they all have backstories that made them turn out that way. If you're a fan of Danganronpa, I really recommend picking this up. It is a fun game. It's a fun game. And it does take some time. Maybe you gotta play it through more than once, maybe twice, to maybe fully appreciate it. And if you can't, then I'm sorry. You can always look up videos to watch it if you have played Danganronpa 1 and 2, but you're not really sure about Ultra Despair Girls. I know I played the game. It's on my channel if you want to watch a playthrough of it. So I recommend if you're borderline on getting it or not getting it, to watch a couple videos, then maybe make a final judgment. If you say no, continue watching. If you say yes, pick it up and then play on your own, and then maybe continue watching the playlist of whoever you watch it from. I know a lot of people have done this game. It's a fun game. It does have moments that make you go, oh Lord, why? Kind of like Danganronpa 2 and 1, where it's just like, oh, what? Wait, what? It just makes you go like, what? And I actually like that about this game. So I believe Danganronpa Ultra Better Girls made me go what a lot more than the other two games. But that's because, I knew some things to expect, but other things I did not. So, like I said, I recommend picking up this game. But that's why it's on number 7 compared to the other games that came out this year. It wasn't that strong. It had a great story though. So the gameplay, probably the weakest thing ever. The story was the greatest. The gameplay, not so much. It was still fun. So, like I said, I recommend picking this game up if you are at all interested in Danganronpa 1 or 2 or just in general. Number 6, Life is Strange. It's an episodic game, kind of like the Telltale games, but this is not made by Telltale. It is made by Dontnod Entertainment, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, and published by Square Enix. You control a girl named Max Caulfield who somehow controls time. That can reverse time, actually. That's all she can do, is reverse time. Of course, it has limits, because if she keeps going too far, she'll start getting a headache or start getting a nosebleed. So, of course, what do you do with that kind of power? Well, the first thing she does is she freaks out a bit, and then she learns that in episode 1, she finds out that someone would get killed. So, what do you do with that? Of course, you reverse time to save them. But then, of course, some stuff happens. There is a tornado, weather, it starts snowing. It's when it normally doesn't. There's an eclipse, beached whales showing up everywhere. It all accumulates to a big tornado coming at her hometown, Arcadia Bay, to destroy it. Now, all the episodes 1 through 5, are amazing. I had to say maybe episode 3 is the weakest one out of all of them, in that I believe it was also the shortest one too, but I'm not really sure if it was the shortest one or not. I think episode 3 and 5 are somewhat close in length, but I'm not really 100% sure about that. Episode 4 was probably the strongest one, but it was also the longest one too, and that could have ended in 3 different ways. But then when you finally get to the end of that episode, you're like, what? And you just want to play episode 5 right away. They all end kind of in a pattern. This is another one of those games where your choices matter. And it all leads up to the final choice that you make in episode 5, where you can get one ending or another one. Now, the video game really leans you towards going to this one ending, which I guess that's considered the canon ending. But it also, you really kind of also want it to be on you kind of want to pick the other one. I guess it all depends on how you play. But I know I picked the other ending that the game didn't want me to pick. So I don't know why that's the canon ending, in my opinion. But Life is Strange is a fun episodic type game. I don't know the exact category that these are called. The Telltale games, The Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, those kinds of games. I don't know what their categorize as. But, they're fun games. Life is Strange is definitely a great one. And, it's the first one that I saw that wasn't made by Telltale, and I think they did it better than Telltale. It did not do so much laggy as the other games have in the past. The Telltale games, especially when it's like the previously parts, because that lags so badly, or the next time on this, it just lagged so badly in the Telltale games. But with Life is Strange, it didn't, because they made it seemed like they made the scenes, because in the coming up or on the next episode of Life is Strange, it shows scenes that no matter what you picked were going to happen. And they were pretty short considering too. They were like maybe 10 seconds long at the longest, I believe. Maybe some were a little longer than other ones, but they never showed like 5 sections of people talking. I mean, people probably did talk, but I mean, it didn't depend on what you said in that episode of how the coming on the next episode was. It just showed snippets, no talking whatsoever. Just showed snippets of what could happen, no talking at all, and I like that. That was amazing. And then, of course, previously on this, there it had the snippets and the stuff that made your choices matter type thing, and those worked great. Those did not lag as bad, but like I said, Life is Strange is a good type of game, episodic type game where your choices matter, and I enjoyed it. It's probably one of those great games out of this time, and I'm actually looking forward to what they'll do with the season 2. They do plan to make one, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that one is going to turn up. But like I said, I really recommend picking up Life is Strange if you haven't. A retail version is coming out in 2016, January or February. I'm not 100% sure, and it's going to have some extras. It's going to have a book. It's an art book, which is so amazing. But I really recommend picking up Life is Strange if you haven't already. It's basically out for every single thing. It's out for the Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3. So really, pick them up. Pick it up. It's a great game, and I love it. So have fun with it and enjoy your travels through time. Number 5, Tales from the Borderlands. Now, Tales from the Borderlands is one of those episodic games where your choices mattered by Telltale this time. Unlike Life is Strange, this one is by Telltale. Now, the reason why this one is above Life is Strange is because Tales from the Borderlands is probably the best Telltale game out there compared to all the other ones. I mean, Walking Dead Season 1 was fantastic, but when you play Tales from the Borderlands, it just blows you away. It's on a whole new level. It's just amazing. You don't have to have played any of the Borderlands games to really understand the story. I mean, maybe if you played Borderlands 2, it might help with that, because this seems to be taking place after Borderlands 2, because, Handsome Jack is in there, but he's dead, and he doesn't die until you beat Borderlands 2. But, you don't have to play Borderlands 2 to really know the story, because unlike the other Borderlands games, this one doesn't have... I mean, it's not a first-person shooter, action-based game. This is a story that progresses depending on how you play type thing. Your choices matter, your direction matters. It's all that. In this game, you take control of 2 people. Fiona, a kind of a bounty hunter type con artist is what you can really say. And, she's trying to make a deal of I can't really she's a con artist, and she's gonna make a big score type thing. So it's one of those things that it's fun, and she has a little sister that she looks out for. And then you play Reese, he works for the big company that Handsome Jack was a part of. And, he's tired of being the little man. He wants to be the big man. And your story kind of starts out playing as Reese, who thought he was going to get a promotion, but then he ends up not getting it. So then he kind of double crosses his boss, the guy who gypped him out of the job, to get the vault key, which is being sold by Fiona. So then hilarity ensues, and a lot of stuff goes down, and eventually they actually hunt for a real vault, and Fiona decides she wants to be a vault hunter. And it's just a fun game. You meet all sorts of characters. You have Reese's best friend. You have Fiona's little sister. You have the bad guys, which is a lot of them there. I think there's 3 of them. You have You have the person Fiona was going to double cross too. And then, but he was also going to help make the deal. But she double crossed him. And then, then that brings out more villains. And then you have the guy that Reese kind of double crossed, his boss. It's just a fun game. Tales from the Borderlands is probably the best game in this kind of series where your choices matters. It's, in my opinion, it's the best Telltale game out there today. Also, that came out this year was Game of Thrones, Song of Fire, not Song of Fire, from Iron to Ice, by Telltale. It was an okay game, but I mean, with that kind of game, you are only limited to a few things because you can't kill characters that either got killed off in the show or got killed in the books, because you can't do that in this kind of game because then it makes plot holes or makes time ripples, I guess you could say, because it's just wrong, because apparently that has to follow the rules of something. Unlike Tales from the Borderlands, it doesn't really have to follow rules of anything. I mean, it does take place after Borderlands 2, so it kind of it's its own thing. It can do anything. And even if it didn't take place before after Borderlands 2, if it took place, I mean, it probably can't take place before Borderlands 2 because, Handsome Jack has to be dead. That's the only thing in it. Handsome Jack has to be dead in this. Otherwise, they can do whatever they want with it. And Tales from the Borderlands is just a fun game. There's so many things, so many options that could come out of this. So many things to just come out. And I really recommend picking up this game if you haven't already. This game definitely deserves to be up in that list. Definitely deserves to be. It's a Game of the Year contender for sure. And it's such a fun game. I really recommend playing it if you haven't already, but pick it up, please. This kind of game is amazing. And if they do a Tales from the Borderlands Season 2 or whatever they do, hopefully it's just as good. I cannot wait for that. Tales from the Borderlands is a fun, fantastic game and definitely deserves to be on anyone who has played this game. Definitely should be on anyone's top 10. If not, it's got to be in their top 5 because, as you know, it is my number 5. So I really recommend picking up this game. Number 4. Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Now, I know in the beginning of my top 10 list thing, I said that HD remix games were not going to make the list. However, I make an exception for Final Fantasy Type 0 because this game originally came out for the PSP, but it only came out in Japan. No one else really got to play it unless you either imported it or you did a special thing that you could play it. But the first time I played it was on my PS4 in 2015 when it came out in March. Now, Final Fantasy Type 0, you follow the cadets of Class 0. You have Ace, you have Seiss, you have Seven, you have Keen, you have Jack, you have Queen. It's basically names of numbers of the decks. And they're all fantastic characters. You are in a war with one other side, and then you have to protect your crystal from them. It's such a fantastic game. This Final Fantasy game was so fun. And I will admit it, the first time I heard about it coming out for the PSP, I was not excited for it. When I heard it was coming over here on HD, I wasn't that excited about it. Even when they announced that, hey, if you pick up Type 0, you get to play the demo for Final Fantasy 15 Episode Disque. Even then, I wasn't excited right away. I was like, sweet, you get to play a demo, but I mean, it's not worth to buy a $60 game to play a demo that's like only an hour or 2 long. It's not worth to do it. But then as I kept learning about some of the Type 0 gameplay and all the other stuff, I started thinking, you know what? Okay, fine. I will pick up Type 0. It looks like to be a fun game. And boy, howdy, was I right. I loved the game so much. It's definitely up there as some of my favorite Final Fantasy game. Like a lot of Final Fantasy games, I really hate some of the characters. I really hate Machina. I really hate him. No matter what. There was nothing that redeemed him for me. Nothing at all. Not even at the end. Did not redeem me at all. He was such a whiny little bastard, which is unfortunate. I liked his voice actor, but I really hate his character. And unfortunately, that sucks. That's why I never had him on my team, really. I never played as him. I never played him. I never played as him. I never had him as my other two characters that show up on the field with me. Nope. Never really had Machina at all. But other than him, I really liked all the other characters that you can play as. Ace was probably always my number one. He has amazing moves. How he attacks with cards and such is just beautiful. And then basically everything that all the other characters, they're just wonderful. Keen, I like playing as him as well because he has the guns. Jack is amazing as well. They're just Queen. It's just I like playing them. I like playing as them. Playing as everyone but Machina. But of course, I didn't have to play as him, but I had to have him on the team so we could level up, so we didn't get the kills right away in missions. But like I said, this Type 0 takes a big turn of the original Final Fantasy. Obviously, it's not turn-based. It's an action-based game. It's gonna I believe, I can't really say anything about it. It's so fun. You have to play it for yourself. I really recommend picking it up. And I'm really sad that a lot of people only picked it up to play the episode Duske that came with it. In my opinion, there's so many other great stuff that could have came. Like, this game was amazing, and I feel so terrible that a lot of people only played it because of episode Duske. But I really hope they picked up Type 0, and after they were done with the demo, they actually played it and really enjoyed it. I see nothing wrong with... I mean, there might be a few things wrong with Type 0, but gameplay-wise, story-wise, it's a fantastic game, and I really recommend picking it up. If you haven't already, please pick it up. This game is amazing. And then that secret ending that you get, not really a secret ending, you get it once you beat the game, but it's such a fantastic way to end it, in my opinion. But like I said, pick it up if you haven't already, because I know you will have lots and lots of fun with this kind of game.